Hello and welcome to this webinar on digital accounting and how it can help your business. My name is Ryan Pearcy. I'm a director in Scott & Bland in our business advisory and systems advisory departments. Generally, I would view myself as a systems specialist with an accounting background. So, how this webinar will go is I will basically talk through a number of slides. There's no demonstrations in this webinar, but I'll cover a number of topics. And please, if you have any questions, drop them into the chat and I will pick these up at the end. As I'm recording this webinar, we'll try and cut out any questions, obviously from a data sensitivity point of view, but I'll be happy to follow up with you afterwards for any meetings, etc. If you've got specific questions that you do not want to ask during the chat, my contact information will be at the end of the webinar. So what will I be covering today? So firstly, I'll be looking at modern cloud software, specifically around finance and operational software, and how this differs to the traditional desktop or server-based software. How you can connect different solutions together, what the benefits are of doing so, and the different options of how you make those connections. I'll give you some functionality-based examples, and I guess how by connecting different solutions they can improve efficiencies, etc. for your business. As following that, some industry-based examples, focusing on actually how my team has helped implement different systems for a number of our clients. And then finally, I'll touch on our systems advisory service that we head up, and specifically say how we help our clients maximize cloud solutions and transitioning over to the cloud, make that as painless as possible for them. So firstly, what is cloud software? So generally, if we go back quite a while, people would be using manual records. These were typed up into ledgers, would generally be very slow to complete, and not really that useful. They were done purely from a compliance perspective. You can't get anything that useful out of it until all of that data is collated into a report, which is once again another manual and old and slow process. This transitioned onto desktop-based software. The likes, or a very prime example in the UK, is Sage. Sage 950 is probably one of the best desktop-based software for small businesses. But getting that data into the software in the first place is very manually intensive. You have to type that in. There's no real, at least historically, no real way of getting that information in an automated fashion. And if you wanted to do that, there'd be a lot of complications in how you'd build that process. The next transition was into a hosted or hybrid solution. A lot of this is taking an old or traditional desktop-based software and utilizing the cloud to push data up and secure that data, back up that data, utilizing cloud functionality. A lot of the operations will be done on the desktop or server themselves, but information pushed up into the cloud from a backup point of view. The benefits of this is lowering risk, but it's not a pure cloud solution. In that sense, you're not getting a lot of the benefits of what is called native cloud. Now, the benefits of native cloud are that you can integrate a lot of different solutions by using API, and you can get a lot of benefits because you've got one individual processing power that's based up in the cloud, and you access your data and the processing power up in the cloud. You don't need a fast machine. You literally just connect into that. The information you're seeing is just being passed back to you based on what you select, all the processing done remotely. So an example of cloud services are shown on the screen. If you've ever used any of these, you're utilizing what is called native cloud. The only difference here is Office 365, where you can either be working in a native cloud solution if you access it via the web browser, or you can utilize a hybrid solution by using your personal machine, Excel, Office, etc. that's on your personal machine, and that's connecting to the cloud where your data is stored. So that essence, Office 365 works very well as a combination of both a pure cloud solution and a hybrid solution. And if you've used both, you'll realize that some of the functionality in the cloud solution is not as powerful or redacted compared to what you get on your machine. And most of that is because it's legacy software. So they've tried to transform what they had based on a desktop or server-based solution and push it up to the cloud. And because of that, they are not utilizing, I guess, the full power of the cloud, although they're adapting this and developing over time. And so you don't get quite the same functionality as you would do on your desktop. The rest of the solutions are very good examples of cloud technology, and Uber's brilliant in the fact that it didn't really develop anything new. What it's done is build onto many different solutions that already existed, such as like Google Maps to work out best routes. You've got communication systems, but by connecting all of these together, it provided one solution that has made it a billion-dollar business. So shows that you don't need to necessarily develop technology from the ground up. Utilizing the cloud, you can build into applications that are already in existence. So on screen is an example or a number of benefits of using cloud. I'm not going to go through all of them, but a few I just wanted to touch on. Firstly, I guess the obvious one is the accessibility. The fact that the information is in the cloud, you can access that from anywhere you've got a internet connection. So in the likes of a complete lockdown, as we've experienced recently, you do not lose access to your data. You don't need to try and work out new processes of how you'll work, because your employees can work remotely. They'll still be able to access all your information, all the programs, and work remotely. And your customers can still interact with you in that way. If you're using digital communication channels, you can still communicate with your clients in the same way you would have done previously. The other bit I want to touch on was backups. Now, if you've been using a server or a desktop-based machine, you would have to do regular backups. That data is in one place and you back it up and secure it in a separate place. So if anything actually happened to your machine, it broke or data was lost, there was some sort of corruption, then you can revert back to your recent backup. Now, cloud-based solutions, especially on the finance side, don't work in that way. Everything is live and in real time, but that data is shared between multiple different servers. So if one server went down for any reason, either the connection into it or there was some big problem in the server itself, you would still be able to connect, or would automatically switch to another server that would still operate. And as soon as that I guess the server that had the problem in the first place was brought back up, the information was shared back with it, and you would not notice anything that's happened in the background. Your experience would still continue as you would expect it, even if there's been a massive problem in the server farm. And that's all because data is being shared in real time between all of these different systems. So in essence, you don't need to back anything up. It's all done automatically in the background without your intervention. And then finally, what I want to touch on is innovation. Most software developers have realized cloud is the future, and so all investment is going into cloud-based technology. So if you want the most modern, advanced solutions, they're going to be cloud native. So if you want to, I guess, get an advantage over your competitors, you will need to be on cloud solutions, because they're going to be developing or providing you the functionality that will give you that edge. And I'll touch on what some of those are a bit later. Another reason for considering cloud solutions is making tax digital. Now, making tax digital is not just for cloud solutions. Any sort of digital technology will work for making tax digital, but generally it's easier to build compliance with making tax digital regulations on a cloud solution and make sure that you are up to date. So as mentioned, you get automatic updates. Actually, I'm not sure I did mention that, but on one of the previous slides, you get automatic updates if you're on cloud technology. So as soon as that software business has connected into HMRC to make sure they're making tax digital compliant, then you are compliant. Whereas if you have a desktop solution, you would have to run an update to ensure you're compliant. So if HMRC ever change something, you have to make sure you've run that update unless you're using cloud technology. And what that does mean is if you are having to submit something in an urgent manner and you have not run that update, it just causes stress for you, whereas that's not going to happen if you're using cloud technology. So hopefully all of you will be aware of Making Tax Digital. It's been around for way over a year now, and all businesses that are VAT registered and have FATable turnover over £85,000 have to be submitting their VAT returns digitally to HMRC. Now what this means is your finance software has to connect into HMRC and send that information digitally. You can use Excel and connect that to HMRC, but there needs to be a digital record of something, and that needs to digitally connect and share information across to HMRC. You can't manually type information into HMRC systems any longer. Now from April 2021, you need a digital connection from where you're taking your original information. So if you've got a sales system, you need a digital connection that, into your finance system and then onto HMRC. So a lot of businesses at present have different operational systems where they do a lot of their work, and that information is then copied or retyped into their finance solution and then sent across to HMRC, and they believe they're compliant. Whereas from April 2021, i.e. next year, that will not be compliant. You will not be ticking the box for making tax digital regulations. You will need to ensure that you have a digital connection from your operational software, anything that you are doing regarding recording your initial sales, into your finance solution and then across to HMRC. Now, if you've got cloud technology, that's a lot easier to do. You can just connect those solutions. If obviously you're using cloud operations solutions and cloud finance solutions, and if that digital link already exists, it's as simple as basically pushing a few buttons and you've built that connection. You may want to tailor how those connections work, which makes it a bit more technical, but to be compliant, it can be a lot simpler. If you're using a desktop or server-based operation solution or finance solution, those connections are a lot more difficult to build, and I'll come on to how those work a bit later. Moving forward, April 2022, Making Tax Digital is rolling out for all VAT businesses. So any businesses that are VAT registered but have less than £85,000 turnover, you will need to be compliant for Making Tax Digital. So submitting your VAT across via a digital link. And then from April 2023, all self-employed and rental, so landlord businesses that have total income over £10,000 also will need to be compliant and sending their information at least quarterly across to HMRC. We're waiting on further details for how this will work, but recently HMRC confirmed, or the government in combination with HMRC confirmed, that this will be rolled out from April 2023. So why move on to the cloud? I've touched on a lot of the reasons why, and those and further ones are listed on the left hand side, but I wanted to just explain the diagram that's situated on the right. So this is an example of purely a finance based solution, with XERO being the hub, the key finance program, and around that is different ways that you can work with different programs or different people, different advisors to connect information and automate a lot of your process, basically creating a different way of working. So Receipt Bank is a way of capturing all of your expenses or purchase information automatically. So you can use an email in function or basically taking a photo of an invoice if you receive it manually. All of that information is scanned and sent across into XERO. You don't need to type any of that information up. And as soon as you've taken a picture or you've got a digital copy of that invoice, you can dispose of it. You don't need to keep manual copies. HMRC accept a digital copy as long as it's been done via scanning technology rather than manually typing that in. The bottom left-hand side is supposed to represent a bank, and via the use of bank feeds, all bank information can now be pulled into the likes of finance software. Some of the banks are still developing that capability, but the majority of the large banks have a digital link, and a reliable one at that. Top right is supposed to be an advisor, being either your accountant, a general business advisor, solicitor, could be anyone that you work with. And what this is representing is that because your finance data is located on the cloud, you can interact with your advisors or share that information in real time. So you're pulling your information in from your bank in real time, you're pulling your information in on your expenses in real time, and you can work with your advisor in real time. So in essence, you can make decisions promptly looking at real-time information, which was not possible until cloud solutions really came about, or at least was very cumbersome. The bottom right is an example of utilizing an industry-specific app, which is what Figured is. Figured is an agricultural app, which takes your data and then produces it or transforms it into something that will work for how your industry operates. So Figured takes crop information from XERO, crop finance information from XERO, and shows it over the a reporting period for a crop cycle. So for those of you unaware, crop cycles can spread over many years. And so Xero's obviously reporting on an annual basis because it's finance software, everything's done annually. But Figure takes that data and transforms it to show it over a crop cycle, which is much more useful if you obviously work in the agricultural space. You're not wanting to actually look at how you have worked in a year, but actually how has a crop operated over its reporting period. So I want to touch on a number of the key cloud-based finance solutions that are on the market, specifically aimed at small businesses. XERO is the lead one that we generally work with, one that we think is best in the ecosystem, and I can touch on many reasons why on a one-to-one basis, but other solutions are labeled around this. So XERO is the leading cloud solution in Australia and New Zealand, where it originated. QuickBooks Online is the lead solution, cloud-based solution in Australia, and XERO and QuickBooks are kind of equal. I think they're very similar in their presence in the UK. QuickBooks is cheaper than XERO. But I find that generally XERO has greater functionality and allows you to scale better, mostly because of how it integrates with other software, which I'll come on to in a little bit. Cashflow works very well for those really small businesses. Anything over £100,000, maybe a little bit larger than that, works very well in Cashflow. But if you're growing, you may want to consider the larger solutions of XERO and QuickBooks. Sage Business Cloud is an alternative. Obviously, Sage, big brand in the UK. Generally, they were slower to market, and I don't believe their solution is as good as XERO and QuickBooks. They're still developing it, it's still getting there, but obviously XERO and QuickBooks are developing their solutions as well. And I don't feel Sage are ever really quite catching up with the likes of their competitors. Exact is a leading cloud solution in Northern Europe, and is probably at that level just above XERO. If you're 5 million plus turnover, your solution, your operations may work on the likes of XERO and QuickBooks, but depending on the number of transactions you have, how you operate internally, you may need a slightly bigger solution, and Exact Online is a brilliant example of one of those. So moving beyond the likes of just the finance solution, XERO has an app marketplace, so similar to your iOS app store. You have a number of apps that have been authorized by XERO, and there are over 800 that have an integration into XERO that have been authorized. Now, like the App Store, XERO have a stage process to become an authorized app that verifies, one, how good, how robust the connection is with XERO, two, how stable the system itself is financially, so what's their longevity, because they don't obviously want to recommend solutions that have no longevity. But I think there's 7 or 8 different boxes that need to be ticked to become an authorized app. There's over 800 authorized apps, but there are over 1,000 unauthorized, because XERO has an open API, so any system can connect into XERO and share data across to it. Now, you by having that connection, I don't mean that anyone can connect into your data. You have to enable that to authorize it, because data can only be connected into XERO through your finance system via a secure key. So you need access to both systems and enable that link by basically authorizing that connection to come in. Once that's authorized, you have full visibility over the connections that you have in your system, and you can remove those at any time if you feel that you do not need that functionality any further. Now, QuickBooks, Sage, Cashflow, Exact, all of them have API connections and enabled links to the system. I'm using XERO because its app marketplace is generally one of the most robust and larger in the ecosystem. It gives you a lot more choice because there's a lot more apps that you can connect in, but when you've got over 800 integrated apps, it can be quite overwhelming for businesses of what would be the best one for them, and that's where our system advisory service comes in, and I'll touch on that a bit later. Picking a few of these out, I've mentioned ReceiptBack earlier as a digital capture tool for expenses. Auto Entry and HubDoc or other examples of those. HubDoc, if you utilize XERO, is a free software, but you must be using XERO to get that free. And Auto Entry works with Sage. Actually, in fact, all of these work with all of the software, or at least most of the software listed previously. Generally, they connect in different ways for different solutions. So you may want to find the best one for how you want to operate. Fathom is a reporting tool, so takes the Xero data and transforms that into reports, utilizing budgets forecasting to give you a better visualization. Instead of just a profit and loss and balance sheet, you get a better visualization of how your data is or how you are operating as a business. Futurely, similar to that, but has forecasting embedded in it. Figured is a reporting tool specifically for agriculture. Unleashed in the top right is a stock management tool. Although Xero does have some stock functionality, it's very limited. Unleashed expands into a wealth of advanced stock management functionality. Citrus HR is probably by the name you'd realize, a HR solution that integrates into Xero. Chaser is a automated credit control. So if you've got any issues with trying to get your customers to pay your invoices, Chaser automates a lot of that process and improves invoice payment by about up 80%, I believe, from their statistics. And Deputy is an advanced staff management solution. So anything where you've got a lot of staff that need to clock in, clock out, etc., or need rota management, Deputy is a brilliant tool for that and shares information into Xero Payroll. So you don't need to copy, paste that information. You push a button, it pushes your timesheet information across into your payroll solution. So I thought I'd touch on kind of where businesses generally are and where they're heading towards. So the left-hand side is generally how businesses have been operating. So you have a collection of different operations. Some of these handled by software. So finance generally will be handled by software traditionally. Operations can be a combination of a software or like Excel or just manual processes. The CRM systems, once again, like operations, can be a specific software or Excel or just actually in your head. But all of these, there are solutions out there and you can share data between them. Mentioned the bank previously and how that can integrate into finance. There's way more than what's listed here, but it's just an example of how businesses may be operating using a collection of different processes and systems. And the aim is actually to link this information together, generally via APIs. Now, an API is a programming term which enables a system to communicate with another system via a shared language. Now, a lot of systems have APIs, a lot of cloud-based solutions have APIs, and once you have that set up, you can either connect via a direct link or an indirect link, and I'll touch on how that works in a little bit. But by connecting your system via these API links, you can share data. So in essence, by the end of it, by the connection of all your different systems, you have one single data source. Now, different systems will not share all of their data from one system to another. So you're not going to share all your operation data into your finance, but you'll share what's relevant, what is needed. Contacts are a key example of this. So you'll have a contact that you've created via your CRM, a lead, and once you've won that work, you want to push a lot of that information or duplicate that information into your operations system. If you've got that link already in place, it's in essence a push of a button and you're creating that template in your operation system. Once you've completed your work, you want to invoice that, and you don't want to once again duplicate the creation of that invoice into your finance. You want to be able to push that across, and you can do this once you've enabled these API links. So it's all about creating reliable data and efficiency gains, and businesses are now developing that and pushing their systems over into this API linked system, having this one reliable data source. So why connect? Why automate your processes? So firstly, it's cost effective. You're going to have a lot of individuals' time copying information from one place to another. A lot of data entry is very time intensive, and to be honest, it's quite boring work. So by utilizing API connected systems, you're removing that, and those individuals can then spend that time doing more productive work, or you'll be able to either reduce your team size, which is not necessarily what I'm seeing a lot of businesses doing, but allows them to scale upwards. So you can grow without the need to hire more people. It's faster. So you don't have to wait for people to do anything. Generally, data, if you've connected your systems, will flow either instantly or within 24 hours. Depending on how you've built these links, you may have data flows which wait for a timestamp. Generally overnight these occur, and at the timestamp it'll look for changes between systems and pull information from one system and push it to another. But a lot of the more advanced digital links, as soon as you've done something, you've created or carried out an operation in one system, you will trigger an operation that will push that information into another system. Thirdly, it's more reliable. Humans make errors, systems generally don't. If a system does make an error, it's usually based on how that connection has been built or a fundamental change that's happened in the system, and a lot of that can be rectified relatively quickly. But the key thing is it's very rare, whereas humans generally will make a lot more errors in just how they process information. So we find systems and system links improve your reliability. Because of this, your data is therefore a lot more reliable, so you have a lot more trust in what you're presented. So a lot of your reporting that comes out the back end of your systems is a lot more reliable, so you've got a lot more trust for making critical business decisions. And to do that, you can, and to enable you to make these business decisions, you can pull information from a lot of your different operations, finance systems that are linked, pull this into consolidated reporting, such as dashboards, and I'll touch on some examples of these. So I've touched on different connections. I talked about the XERO app marketplace, and that is an example of a pre-built connection. So the software vendors themselves have used the API link to build a connection between them. So that pre-built connection has certain information that can be shared from one system into another, and vice versa. You don't need to do anything in this stage. If you are using those systems, you literally connect the link, which can take a couple of minutes or a few hours, depending on the complexity of the link that's needed. And once that's done, it's there until you remove it. Information will be shared back and forth. If the link doesn't exist directly, you can use an integration tool. An example of that is Zapier, where a lot of systems build a connection into Zapier. So you've got say your operation system that has a link to Zapier, and then you'll have your finance system, which may also have a link to Zapier. Now, what happens with Zapier is it condenses down programming language into something that's easy to understand. So you connect your systems into Zapier, and then you go, I want to take this information from this system and push it over to this system when this occurs. So you build the code via just a logic gate operation. And so by doing that, you can have a bit more customization over how the link, how your systems share data and in what circumstances. So you can tailor, I guess, how your business solutions work together. And then the final solution is a custom link. If your operations or all of your systems have an API, or even if they don't, you can get a developer to customize or build something that takes data from one and pushes it into another. If the API system exists already on the software you're using, it's a lot easier to build into, so obviously it'd be cheaper to do, but you can customize something from a pre-built solution that does not have an API link into another solution. And what we generally find is this happens if you are very tied into like an operation system. You've customized that quite heavily. You may want to build a link from that operation system into a finance system utilizing the API of that finance solution. So I said I'd give a number of examples of how you can utilize or maximize the integrations through pre-built APIs. And the first one I'm going to touch on is purchase management. So this may look complex, but actually utilizing these tools probably replaces processes you already have and utilizes advanced functionality in those tools to automate and make them a lot more efficient. So Receipt Bank, I touched on. I said that you can scan information by taking a picture of it, and that's what that top icon is supposed to represent above the Receipt Bank image. On the left-hand side is a direct connection into your supplier. A number of suppliers, when they've got a portal that they share their invoices on, Receipt Bank can connect into. So as that invoice is generated, Receipt Bank will pull that information into its software, scan the information from the purchase invoice and push it into XERO, possibly before you even realize that an invoice has been generated in the first place. And then the bottom icon is an email in functionality. So most businesses now are receiving the majority of their invoicing digitally via email, and you can get your suppliers to copy in an email in address, and as soon as that invoice comes across, it will go into Receipt Bank, scanned, and then sent into your finance software. Now, depending on how often you read your emails, like the connection into your supplier, directly into your supplier, that information may be scanned and pushed into XERO before you even realize it, automating that whole purchase management system from the collection of data point. Approval Max on the far right then is an approval system that sits on top of this that enables you to push information across to relevant people in your business to approve the invoice, to check it's what's in it, that's what's come across from the supplier, is actually what you agreed to be paying for in the first place. You can build complex rules into this or keep it as simple as possible, and by that I mean you can have limits, so anything above a certain amount needs to go to the director, but anything below that can be authorized by managers, or however you want this built. You've got this customization process that you can build through Approval Max. Pleo is a corporate card function tool, so any time that someone goes and pays for something on a card, Pleo will prompt them to scan that receipt that they receive for making that purchase, extract the information, and push that into XERO. It then does the reconciliation between the payment and the receipt, so you don't need to do that from a bank processing point of view. That's automatically done as part of the processing. If you don't have that, if you pay, or if you want to make payment on account, the bottom right hand side is an example of how you can do that from your finance system. So XERO has an example. XERO has a system called Pay with TransferWise, where you can utilize or maximize the information in XERO, push that into TransferWise, and enable that to make payment directly using your bank. Now, this is still in development, so it's still got a slight bit of manual process involved, but as it rolls out, it will be able to communicate more directly with your bank and pull that information based on rules and authorizations that you've enabled for specific users. I talked about reporting, and Sife, as shown here, is an example of a dashboard reporting tool. This is a purely finance-based one, and it's showing graphically how you are performing or how your business is performing. So in the top left, you've got how your revenue is moving. Top right, you've got key expenses that are happening over different periods. And bottom left, you've got how are you performing compared to your budget, how are you doing, how's your sales, etc., or your marketing costs going compared to budget. You can enhance this into a lot more complexity, and this Sife dashboard is an example of a marketing tool. So Sife is plugged into lots of different marketing systems. So top left, you've got Google Analytics for how your website is performing or driving traffic into your website. The top is how your marketing on Facebook is working, and you've got other examples on the right hand side of different marketing platforms. And the middle is showing actually what's happening from a Twitter point of view, who's talking about your business in Twitter, who's tagging you in Twitter. So however you want to see information, you can build this into a Sife dashboard, assuming that you've got that connection in place. Sife has a number of pre-built connections in different systems, or you can get that connection built. And once it's in place, you can then display different information on a Sife dashboard. And you can build these specifically for key individuals in your business. So marketing, obviously, very key for someone that needs to be driving that, whether you've got someone that does that specifically, or you as a director will be doing that internally. But if you've got someone that deals with finance, you can build a specific tool that tracks their finance. You may want to flag, actually, how up to date is our finance system? Have we processed everything? Is it in real time? And then from that, as you saw on the previous dashboard, how are we performing as a business? From an industry-based example, this is something we've rolled out for one of our clients. It has XERO as the finance hub and Receipt Bank and Approval Max as that purchase management solution, capturing data from your expenses. The top right is that staff management solution that I talked about earlier. So this is a retail business, so lots of clocking in, clocking out for people on site. With that, pay by the hour, staff members, and Deputy will capture that and push that into XERO Payroll. Shopify and Sin7 are an advanced stock management solution. That's what Sin7 does. And Shopify is a point of sale solution that integrates into their website and their till system. So it looks at what's available in stock, produces that, and as people are making purchases, it interacts directly into the stock management, updates that, and then pushes that information across into the finance solution. And then Scythe is an example of what we're looking at as a dashboard solution that sits on top of all this. Another example is a marketing solution that we've developed for a client. Once again, XERO sits at the hub of this. Receipt Bank and Approval Max is the purchase management solution. But because they have a lot of regular clients, they utilize a direct debit facility called Go Cardless, which they get signed up with their clients, and it will automatically pull that information based on the invoices that appear in XERO. HubSpot is their CRM solution, and then creates jobs within XERO, which is their project management solution. As staff members work in XERO, they're tracking time, obviously, as they go along, and then generating invoices from XERO, which upon generation and authorization go across into XERO. Once they're in XERO, it then will interact with Go Cardless to pull those funds down. And then the right-hand side is Futurely, which we're looking at as a forecasting and advanced reporting tool, which will take information from what's populated into XERO and present that in a graphical format. So, in summary, why would we go onto cloud? So one is you're looking at your data in real time. It's going to be more accurate, and it pulls all that information from all your different systems together. So it creates that single data set. You've got that ability to collaborate with your advisors in real time and have a more dynamic relationship with your advisors. You'll be making tax digital compliant as now and in the future. You're getting all of those efficiency gains, that automation process, your data becoming a lot more reliable. And it allows you, I guess, as a summary, to focus on your business and not on making sure that your data is correct. So by building these systems, you can actually just operate as you want to, and then information is shared across in real time. It speeds up the processing and makes it a lot more reliable for you. So moving on, what does our systems advisory service look like? So what we in essence do is we help businesses utilize cloud technology, specifically cloud technology, to help on their data capture and management, make their data a lot more reliable. And that leads to that automation, that flexibility of working. So now it enables the businesses to work dynamically, specifically if a dramatic change happens, such as what's happened recently with lockdown. And once that's in place, it also then enables the business owners or people that run the business to focus on developing it further. How can the business grow? How can it use the data that we've collated and are reporting on to make those key business decisions to grow the business further or reduce costs? Both can happen by utilizing cloud technology. So we deliver our solutions in different ways. So this is an example of how we can do that. We've got our advisory element where we can consult and propose solutions, and we scale our offering here for how the business operates, the size, the scale of the business, but also what they want to get out. So if you're already utilizing cloud technology, we can advise you on how to get the most out of that, or what other systems you may want to look at. Or if you're completely new to it, we can look at how your processes work and what the best systems would be to roll out to replicate those as close as possible, whilst maximizing all the efficiency gains you get from cloud. Once you've got that and you know what you want to do, we can implement those for you, and building those links, transferring your data and validating that it works correctly, and then training your team on how to utilize those solutions. And then once it's all in place, we can also provide that ongoing support, respond to you and tailor our support to make sure you get the best out of that. Now, we either do that ourselves or we work with the software providers or consultants to do that for you. But the key thing is we're managing that process. You've got that reliable single source to come to make sure you're getting the best advice. So who or when should you be considering this? So any business where you're thinking about adopting cloud technology, you heard about it but unsure how to do that or how to do it in the best way, we can help. Any business that's looking to improve their efficiencies or to grow, then we can definitely assist in doing that. And anytime that you actually you know you've got all this information, but you don't feel you're seeing this or it's not visible to you in an efficient way to enable you to make better business decisions, we can also assist in that. So please, by all means, make contact if any of these are relevant to you. So if you've got any questions, please let me know, and I'm happy to follow up. And I am showing you my contact details on the screen now. So thank you thank you for following this webinar, and yeah, please get in touch.